Congratulations on the title win, NWA
Thanks,
World's
man.
Heavyweight Champion Thom Latimer. Uh, I like where Sawen is kind of going here because if you look at last year's show, you go in as challenger. EC3 is the champion. You beat him for the title. Now here's a rematch with the roles reversed. Talk to me about the dynamic
Yeah.
of, I know you've kind of talked before about how much uh, you guys have meant to each other's careers, but now having this dynamic shift where you're the champion going in. Talk to me about this match and what makes it fresh for you in your own career.
Um, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, we have crossed paths a lot. We've always sort of yo-yoed in and out of each other's peripheral vision. Um, yeah, I think that, I mean, there's only, he's someone that ultimately when he came into the company, he went straight to the front of the line, and I could be really upset about that or whatever, but ultimately he just came in and he did whatever he needed to do to get in that position and be world champ, and he was a fantastic world champion. He ticks all the boxes, and so there was definitely a sort of maybe a deep down bit of animosity towards him just because as far as I'm concerned, I'm standing in line and this guy just jumps in front.
Mhm.
But ultimately, I let him do it. That's on me. So we've wrestled at the NWA. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. It feels like a lot, but every time me and him get in there, there's always a new. There's always just a new part that grows from it, or they always feel there's always some sort of storyline or some sort of emotion or something that bridges the gap from the next one. Because when you're doing a super long storyline and there's not constantly stuff to fill in the blanks, it's kind of hard to follow along with. Because I mean, we've been more or less feuding since he got there. So I think that we also pride ourselves in going into that and going, okay, what's the story of the match? What do we need from this? Where are we going to go? What can we do? Or what can we tweak that we did before that would tell a story? Because that's essentially what we tried to do at 76, which was, I think, one of the first times that he was there and we fought. It was either the first or second. His boys ended up jumping and beating me up, and then he was going to smash a chair over my head. And so we sort of tried to hark back to that moment. Whether or not people notice, I don't know. But we thought, okay, well, let's try and at least incorporate some stuff from the past and bring it into the future to try and mold the storyline together. I'm always excited anytime I get to wrestle him. Me and him are both pretty. Well, we're both pretty grizzled. We're both pretty beaten up. Um, so there's always another test too. How can we work around this? How can we work around that? I mean, even at 76, when we got into the ring, the ref turned to me and said, "Hey, the ropes are knackered. You can't hit them." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh man." So, but knowing that I was in there with him, I knew that we'd be able to work around it or do whatever. But that could have been a big Achilles heel had it have been, somebody else, or had me and him not been wrestling for so long. It was definitely a disappointment. But again, that can also maybe be used something in the future for storytelling. Who knows? But this Samhain is also it's a fun sort of event. So there's it because it's Halloween and things like that. So it's also an event where you can get a bit more wackier and wonkier and maybe get away with some stuff that you probably won't be able to get away with. So there's always that level of excitement too. We know that our hands shouldn't be cuffed that much.
Mhm.
And depending on where we want to go and how we want to continue the story or even end the story, know that the handcuffs are off, and we can pretty much do whatever our hearts desire.
Mhm.
Um, should should really help either continue to build this feud or end it on the night.
Mhm. Oh, I know you mentioned like callbacks, and I don't know if it's just because of social media or it's just more prevalent this year, but it feels like a lot, like all over the board. Like it seems like people are picking out like, oh, that's a callback to this. And you just mentioned like, you know, you and EC3. And I know for example, like CM Punk wore Shawn Michaels themed tights in the Hell in the Cell because it was the anniversary of, you know, little stuff like that. I feel like goes a long way where it's like, is that something you guys always think about, or is that something that's like more prominent now because it's just kind of, you know, it's something that has become more prevalent or something that's on your minds more?
I mean, I think there's a few different ways of discussing that, in my opinion. Back in the day, maybe it did happen, and if it did, then I apologize. But I felt like you couldn't really get away with doing that stuff back in the day, or you'd have been, or you know, you'd have been accused of being a big mark, or an embarrassment, or whatever. Whereas now, even taking a picture with another wrestler that you might look up to isn't looked down upon anymore. Like times have changed. Um, so I feel like maybe there's a little bit of that. Like it's okay now to show that you were a fan of something, or that I mean, even when I got into the job, I remember like me and Nick, for example, being in the back of one of the vans taken us to the next job. And you know, we might have his DVD player there running with, you know, some Dynamite Kid match or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And the old timers are turning around like, turn that shit off, you bloody marks. You know what I mean? So like that was just how it was. So you didn't do
Hmm.
any of that kind of stuff. So I feel like times have changed, and these things you can express yourself a little bit more, I guess, and you can let people know that you're a fan of something, and it's not going to you know, it's not going to damage your reputation or make you look like a fan yourself. So there's a level of that, and I think there's a level of fun to it too. I know that last Samhain pay-per-view, me and Kaylee dressed up as Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth,
Hmm.
which was kind of, even for me then, she really wanted to do it right. So I was going to say no. I'd have not done it, but she made me. But even part of me is going, this is a world heavyweight title match. You know what I mean? Like, is there, even though it's a gimmicky sort of pay-per-view, I still want the world title and things like that to be taken serious. So there's even a part of me that was wondering, I don't know if this is a good idea or not.
Hmm.
I probably won't ever lose that feeling because that's just ingrained in me to you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that yeah, times have changed, and it's okay now to have a bit of a laugh and fun. But then also, what does it sort of tell you about where we are in wrestling if you've got to use the past to sort of get people excited? You know, does that mean that we're not, you know, making the stars that we used to do 10, 20, 30 years ago? I mean, there's all sorts of ways of looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna go to last year's attire next. I think it worked. I think when you think back about what people were talking about most, that was one of the things because I really liked the homage. Like, you know, there's obviously the James Mitchell stuff that people like latched onto, but I think the two of you did a really nice homage to Macho Man and Liz. I was gonna ask if you're gonna, you know, obviously Camille's in AEW right now, but do you have plans for like another tribute or any way to like kind of make Halloween themed gear that without giving it away?
Well, it's funny you say that because you know, I think that if my wife was still there with me, we'd definitely be doing something probably. But no, I haven't looked in or thought about doing that stuff. Especially now, again, it's kind of like I'm still hung up on being a professional, and is that going to take away, or is that going to, you know, again, I don't know. Like I said, it's just because I'm more old school, I guess would be the word. I don't know. I did, however, though, wander into Walmart, and I was looking at the mask section. I think I do it every Halloween just because I like the Halloween stuff. And I picked up this mask, and I thought, oh, that's quite scary. So I thought, well, it's only $7. I'll get it. And then I took it home, and Kaylee saw it. She's like, "Get that out of the house!" You know, I think she'd hidden it too. Like I'd left it in the cupboard somewhere, and she'd like hid it so she didn't need to see it. I guess that's
Mhm.
how horrifying it is. So I do have a mask now. Whether I'm going to bring it, but whether I'm going to come out in it or not, I don't know. I guess we'll see how many other freaks and geeks are on the paper on the show, and then I'll judge accordingly.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have. We're not. I'm not doing, unfortunately, anything that is, a take on another wrestler. I just, again, it was definitely a Kaylee call.
Mhm. Uh, I mean, hey, I thought maybe she would like, hey, you're still doing this. Like, here, I got this idea. You still got to do it. Maybe she'll like poke the bear a little bit.
Yeah, well, we sold that gear, so at least she can't make me do it again.
So I know you said, you're in Florida, but NWA is really trying to make Tampa like a new home, the WEDU studios, the PBS studios. What's that transition like been for you? Because I know NWA was going all, different cities across the country, but now this is more like a steady home. What's that experience like been for you?
Well, when we were living in Nashville before, we were doing it from the Nashville TV studios there. So, I mean, anytime that they're going to start running TV and it's close to me, great. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Hmm.
excellent. So I'm not complaining, even though Tampa is still pretty far for me.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, for me, it's just another day at the office, really. And we've been to that Tampa studio many a time, and they take good care of us and look after us and put up with us. So it's a good vibe and everything. But also it's we do. There's a lot of we're running a lot of shows, and there's a lot of ones that are under the NWA banner too. So
Hmm.
maybe in a year, NWA has, I don't know, 20 to 30 maybe
Hmm.
TV pay-per-view esque tapings, but then on top of that we've got another 30 maybe more house shows, either piggybacking off other companies, or ones that are in the territory system. So
Hmm.
there's a ton of stuff going on. So as much as it might feel like, yeah, from the outside looking in, that we only feel we're going back to Tampa a lot, we're doing this and that, there's also so much other stuff going on. It's just not as sort of publicized.
Hmm.
But I was going to say something else. It's gone. Sorry, Bill. I got
It's
mixed up.
fine.
No, yeah, no. It's there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. It's pretty good. I mean, I've been busy every weekend doing something
Hmm.
NWA related.
Yeah.
So so yeah, no, yeah. But for me, business as usual.